Well, thank you for joining me for another iTWire video with top IT executives. Today I have with me Charlie Wood. He is the Country and General Manager of Dropbox Australia and New Zealand. And we're here to also talk today about the Groups and Groups for API announcement. But before we get there, Charlie, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Alex.
I know everyone knows about Dropbox and, you know, it's on Samsung phones, it's everywhere. But can you just give us the quick sort of potted history of what Dropbox is used for and how it started?
Sure. So Dropbox is the place to get work done. It's a place to collaborate. It's a place to store, and it's a place to share information that you deal with either in your personal life, such as documents and photos, or in your business life, such as all the documents and Word documents and spreadsheets and PowerPoints and anything else that you might have. Mm-hmm. So the business started about 7 or 8 years ago when one of the founders, Drew, was famously on a bus, and he didn't have his thumb drive with his work with him. Mm-hmm. and he was heading somewhere, so he thought there's a better way of dealing with this. There's got to be a solution to this, and that was the genus of cloud-based storage across many different devices. So over the years, this has now evolved to the business that we see today. We have a great consumer footprint, and we also have an incredible business product in Dropbox for Business.
And how long ago was Dropbox for Business launched?
So we're just over a year in business, and we've got about 100,000 customers on Dropbox for Business today, mm-hmm. worldwide, including many in this market here. And actually, one of the things that's interesting about the Australia-New Zealand business is just the number of people that use Dropbox today. So across our consumer footprint, which is generally users of Dropbox, mm-hmm. there's over 300 million users worldwide. 70% of those are non-North America. And we got about 8 million of those in Australia. So when we're looking at international expansion, one of the key markets for us was Australia. You've got about a third of the population that actually have a Dropbox account. So
was there anything else that was particularly unique about the landscape in Australia? I mean, there's the usual things where Western market, we speak English, we're early adopters of technology, but was there anything else that really stood out?
Yeah, so there's this great footprint of usage. And also, I mean, the early adoption thing, you shouldn't sort of push that to one side.
No.
Particularly with cloud services. And you look at other cloud players as well, like folks like Salesforce, mm-hmm. Have made great headway with great Australian customers and case studies like the CBA Bank in this market. So when we're looking at a global footprint of where are Dropbox users today and who are cloud forward thinking organizations and companies.
Of course you want to go to those places.
Of course we want to go to those places. So we had a great bunch of guys from San Francisco that came here as a landing team, and they found me, and I now head up this business.
And how long have you been here in the position?
I've been in this position now just over 6 months.
Yeah.
Actually, I came from Salesforce, which is it's kind of a funny thing I just mentioned, Salesforce. And I'm in the process of building the team in this lovely office that we've got here in Sydney, and we're soon to be expanding into Melbourne. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the region. Now,
we're going to talk more specifically about Groups and Groups for API, the announcement, shortly. But what are some of the ways that both business and consumer customers have been using Dropbox to date? And how has some of that enabled true collaboration beyond the things you've already told us?
Yeah, so in the consumer space, it's about just the place for all of your stuff, the stuff that you really care about. Your photographs, your documents, the things that you have as an individual that you take around with you. I personally have had a Dropbox account for 5+ years.
Yeah, most people have had it for a long time now.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, and I've got so much information in there. It's I worry about the stuff that's not in there. That's what concerns me. And in fact, when I signed my contract with Dropbox, I got an email from the guy who's now my boss. Had a link in it to a contract. Mm-hmm. I open it, I get a digital signature, and it says, "Do you want me to put a secure copy of this in your Dropbox folder?" That's exactly where I want that document to be. So that's great. So I can always find that document again.
Now, just on the topic of security, it's been just as a question without notice. I mean, in the past there've been issues with every cloud provider. Yeah. But I mean, one of the things that I get with my Gmail is I get 2-factor authentication. You can have it on Facebook. I don't think it's available yet for Dropbox. But I mean, can you tell us about any other security things that Dropbox is doing or planning without giving secrets away?
Yeah, no, 2-factor authentication is live and available today.
Yeah. And how long has it been for?
Oh, I think it's been in place for at least 6 months.
Okay, so a while now.
Maybe longer. I'm going to check on that.
Sure.
But yeah, I use 2-factor authentication with Google Authenticator across both my Dropbox for Business and my Dropbox personal account, mm-hmm. which is great. We have industry standard level encryption, encryption at rest, and encryption in transit. The architecture of the product is incredibly secure. The data itself is stored in these 4 meg encrypted blocks, and then the metadata is actually stored somewhere else. So even if you could get to any of these blocks, you couldn't reconstruct it in any way anyway. So it's an incredibly secure solution. We take security and policy and governance and trust incredibly seriously.
Well, everyone has to these days.
Yeah, well, actually we have an incredibly strong team in HQ that deal with not only security but also policy, and then trust and transparency. We're actually very, very transparent about any requests that we get from anybody about looking for data, whether these be government agencies or whoever writes to us. We're very public about what those are, and our initial stance is it's not our data. Don't ask us. Ask the people that own the data, basically. So yeah, no, that's a very valid question.
Sure. Now, of course, Dropbox has lots of competitors: the Google Drives, the OneDrives, the SugarSyncs, Box. I mean, there's any number that have grown, and so obviously Dropbox has introduced Dropbox for Business, and you've introduced many different things. What else are you doing, including groups and groups for API, to really capture the attention of both consumers and businesses? And so tell us about both groups and groups for API and anything else on that topic.
Sure. So I'll start with the groups thing. So groups was a feature that businesses just need. So as you start to expand the place to store and collaborate within boundaries and outside of boundaries across multiple devices, it makes sense that when you're onboarding people, say the marketing department, the marketing department's data is in a marketing group folder. You add people to that group, and then they can access that data.
I mean, it's a pretty common concept. Groups, everyone's used to it.
That's exactly right. The Groups API is interesting because we have a lot of partners around our Dropbox Business API that we launched just before Christmas in data loss prevention, e-discovery, single sign-on, authentication solutions.
We're talking enterprise-type solutions here,
stuff. So by expanding the Groups API to these providers, then we can start to do things like Active Directory synchronization and integration. And so actually one of our integration partners around this is the Windows Azure around ADFS, which is an often requested solution. But the key thing to understand through the lens of our customers and what differentiates us from some of these other solutions in market is just the adoption rate, the ease of use, the familiarity. We have 300 million customers on our solution. We don't have a problem with the brand. I mean, I was recently in the Himalayas and walking on to do some work on a Himalayan Foundation project with one of my buddies runs. And we gave some Dropbox T-shirts to some Sherpa kids, and they're like, "Oh, Dropbox."
Yeah, even they knew.
And these guys don't have electricity, but they have older brothers that are Sherpas, and they buy a Samsung phone in Kathmandu, and it comes with Dropbox on it, and they'll take a selfie, and it'll upload straight to Dropbox to store their stuff. So what the key thing for us to do, particularly in this business here, is help our business customers understand that they can take that really rock solid consumer, secure, familiar experience, and then take all these pockets of use and bring it inside of their own portfolio of governed and controlled services. So Dropbox for Business really wraps the familiar experience you have and know today, but then it also provides a place which is clearly for your business, so you separate your personal from your business work. And then you've got security, you've got auditing, you've got traceability, you've got control, you've got remote device management, wipe. And then plugging in through all of these other API solutions, you can then integrate to solutions you may already have today or other solutions you may look to go and buy.
Now, one of the big topics I hear a lot of people talking about is shadow IT. And even Telsite just put out a survey or a study the last few days talking about how 22% of Australian IT spending is now being done by non-IT departments who are going out there and getting Dropbox and getting other cloud services and just bypassing IT and putting them in. So what do you say about that trend?
Well, that's a really good point, and we talk to a lot of the analysts, and we talk through these things with them, and of course in this office we talk to a lot of customers, and our advice there is, and especially this year, 2015, is don't shy away from shadow IT. We went through bring your own device. Now people are bringing their own apps, as
Yeah,
you say.
BYO everything.
Everything. So don't ignore this and don't shy away from it and don't try to close it down.
Yeah, embrace it.
Embrace it. The best thing you can do is take this. So if you've got pockets of use inside of your organisation that are already using Dropbox, it means that you're not providing them something that they actually need to be able to share and collaborate and work in real time.
Otherwise, they would be using what was already provided.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we offer with Dropbox for Business an ability to take it under the management portfolio, put the governance and control around it, and then you've got
keep IT happy.
Keep IT happy, and then IT becomes a hero because they're delivering something to the user that the user actually wants, that they don't have to roll out again, that they're already using, and they know how to use. And that's an absolute key theme, and that's many of the conversations that's happening today around our customers in Australia, in government, in education, in media companies, in financial services, is exactly that. So the CIO chain of command is actually realizing that it's not about shutting down shadow IT, it's about embracing and controlling it.
Just another question with that notice that just came to my mind. I mean, we've got data sovereignty, metadata, data retention laws. Is Dropbox, does Dropbox planning to have any data centers in Australia? Do you already have them? In case companies say, oh, I want to have my data stored in Australia. Yeah. Is that something you're looking at?
Well, it's an interesting one. This comes up all the time. Peppering the planet with data centers is not the answer to these things.
I mean, you could also partner with some local existing data centers too.
We absolutely could.
Equinixes of the world and NextDCs.
One of the important things that we find with cloud solutions, and Salesforce is very much like this as well, is that we have a team of experts that can secure these things. We're in a single country location, so you're under the jurisdiction of one real government,
which is presumably the US.
Which is the US. That's absolutely right. So the clarity around these things is less to do with legislation. It's more to do with just being comfortable about where the data's being stored, under whose jurisdiction, and what policies, processes, security and governance are actually wrapped around these things. We recently had an interesting conversation with somebody fairly senior in a government position who actually just really was very happy with that, and that was his leading thought on this. As long as you've got the right governance controls, provisioning and the right policy wrapped around these things, the fact that it's in a single location actually plays to your advantage. And then if you look at these solutions, and this is why a lot of people have gone to cloud anyway, is because we've got the ability to put a much more talented team around securing and managing this for availability, reliability, and deliverability than you would in buying it yourself.
Sure.
Replicating data centers around the world is probably not the right solution for us today.
Yeah.
And it's not we will never put a data
Sure.
center
I mean,
in
you've got the EU that's trying to mandate European data should be held in the EU. You've got Russia saying all Russian data should be in Russia. So some of these things are mandated by governments, and then they're trying to to block people. I mean, even China is famous for blocking all sorts of things. Yeah. So when you say you may have to do it in the future, it could be just because of global regulations and wanting to play in that market.
Yeah, it could be, and it also looks at the workloads. So there's certain classifications of data that shouldn't belong in cloud solutions. You've got privacy information, P1 data, etc. in this country alone. But we're not looking to convince people to put that into these places. So in any business, some regulated, some not. Particularly you look at financial services or government or healthcare. There's always going to be categories of data that we're not intending to be storing in this generation of where we are.
Yeah.
But other things, absolutely fine.
Yeah. And there's a lot of data out there.
One of our local customers is Macquarie Bank, who's the marketing department.
Yeah.
Right. So it's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was just thinking of that sort of scenario as you were describing it.
Yeah.
So how do you see the online cloud storage market evolving over the next 5 to 10 years? Crystal ball time.
Yeah, no, interesting. So certainly for us, it's now less about just storage because that's table stakes. Yeah. It's about collaboration. Yeah. And so we announced the early access of a thing called Project Harmony, which is a wonderful experience for Office users, Microsoft Office users, when the data is actually stored in Dropbox. So there are more Microsoft Office documents stored in Dropbox than anywhere else in the world, like 35 billion documents.
Presumably even more than OneDrive.
Yeah, that's true.
Hello, Microsoft.
It's true. So you can kind of think about that. developers solved this problem 20 years ago
Yeah.
with the IDE, where they could collaborate at massive scale on live documents or code. Information workers have never been afforded that that privilege. We've always got to the situation where I would finish a PowerPoint, put my initials on it, call it final, email it you.
Yeah.
You'd call it final version.
I call
3.
it final 2, yeah, final 3, that's
right.
right. We've all done that a million times. Yeah.
So going away from that, so having a first-class experience where you can use Office as your information worker productivity suite, storing at the back end of Dropbox, and then having a really lightweight collaboration layer over the top of that is exactly where we're heading. There'll be other announcements later in the year as well about other products, but that's really where we're going, is just the future place to get work done and seamlessly.
Sure. Now, just a question that's inspired by Ashton Kutcher, who was here with Lenovo a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he says he likes to ask or be asked, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received to get you where you are today? And it's a good question.
Yeah, so there's 2 pieces of advice. It's a funny question, actually.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of human. I mean, we're not just talking about marketing type stuff. It humanizes you as an executive and shares something, with the people that are watching beyond how wonderful Dropbox is.
So there's one piece of advice that a good friend of mine called Gareth Thomas gave me, and then he claims he never gave me this advice, which I think is even better.
Even better,
advice.
yeah.
So he said, whenever there's a gold rush, you never want to be panning for gold. You want to be selling picks and shovels.
Yeah,
which is and really it's an allegory for scarcity and scale.
Yeah,
and that's really what it's all
well,
about.
for opportunity where people don't normally see it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And what was the second piece of advice?
Well, the second piece of advice is the following piece: is if you're going to have a business, you better have scarcity and scale.
Yeah.
And it can't exist without at least one of those 2 things. And he's a great guy. He's a great entrepreneur. He runs a publishing company up in the Hunter Valley, and he's done all kinds of things. But if you look at this business, I mean, we certainly have scarcity. We've got an experience that no one else has got, and that's why we have this maniacal focus around the customer experience, and that's why we win out over lots of the other solutions because people just like using the Dropbox solution. And then we've got scale. We have 300 million users, 8 million of those in Australia. 95% of the ASX use some form of Dropbox, so we've definitely got scale as well. So it kind of fits that advice that my friend claims he never gave me.
Yeah. Probably over a bottle of wine he's forgotten.
Yeah, right.
So do you have any final messages for iTWire viewers and readers, and also for your current and potential customers or future customers?
I guess the only thing is just take the time to understand the Dropbox for Business solution. My biggest challenge in this business is educating people. As I say, we don't have a problem with brand recognition.
It's not awareness; it's education.
That's right. It's education that we have a business solution out there and ready to go. We've built this great team here in Australia, and we continue to grow through the next 5-10 years.
Well, Charlie, I wish you the best of luck with the new group's announcement, and I hope to talk to you again in the future.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.